We are back. Yes, we are back. My name is Ibrahim Sumreen, and this is the Arabic program that comes to you live every Saturday from 9 to 11 on this very station. By the way, for you to know, we just moved to downtown a few weeks ago. We are at Jasper Avenue between two streets, 102 and 103. There you come to visit us because the coffee is on Ibrahim. And it is at this time my privilege to introduce to the community Renee Vaugeois. This interview is being presented to you live for a very noble purpose. To start with, welcome to the Arabic program, Renee.
Hello, how are you?
I am fine. Thank you for coming, and I can't tell you how happy my listeners will be, especially when you know your message. So tell us first, why are you here?
Well, I'm here representing the John Humphrey Centre for Peace and Human Rights, which is we're hosting from July 27th to 30th this summer an international youth event called the Global Youth Assembly, the Ignite Change Now Global Youth Assembly. And really this Global Youth Assembly brings about 600 youth from around the world. I'm so excited because we're getting the people coming in from Bangladesh and Colombia and you name it, and Egypt, and we're coming. The Global Youth Assembly is all about young people, ages 16 to 28, coming together, exploring critical human rights issues that exist in our world. It happens every 2 years. And this year I'm really excited because we're looking at the connection between water and human rights, water being a really critical global issue right now. And, from looking at issues around our oceans to looking around issues with the oil and the tar sands to looking at the Nile River issues around Northeast Africa. There's so many different issues that to look at in our world, and they say that, water could be the next potential for a global crisis. So we're looking at all these issues as youth and really coming together and figuring out what is our role in preserving and protecting this important resource as young people. And so we're really excited.
Coming myself from the Middle East, I know how important water is. In fact, the Israeli-Arab, in particular Israeli-Palestinian conflict, although it is about land, but people, little they know that water is one of the significant, points. Mm-hmm. A bit of trivia here, Renee. Who is John Humphrey?
Well, John Humphrey is actually a Canadian legend that most people don't know about. He's the principal drafter of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which passed at the United Nations in 1948. So he wrote that original document. So we're really proud of him, and that's why we're named after him.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
You raised some important issues, and also you pointed to the youth. Let's put them together. Why is it important?
Well, I think it's so important. I think today what we heard over the years of working in Edmonton with youth is that there's not really ever an environment where we're coming together with really diverse youth coming together to explore issues. Because I think to address issues such as human rights or water, we need to have collective wisdom. We need to have our collective voice at the table to really create solutions that we all are invested in, because we all have an interest in water. We all have an interest in human rights. But we want to create this space where youth with, who have disabilities, Aboriginal youth, international youth, that it's a space where we're all coming together to share these conversations, because I don't think that happens enough in our world. I think we tend to segregate ourselves, and the Global Youth Assembly has become all about integrating and creating a safe space, and we use the arts as a way of kind of breaking down those barriers and making a space that's really fun but serious and proactive. So,
what an important and far-reaching goal and objective, in fact. We in Canada are among the most privileged on earth because we have lots of water, mm-hmm. fresh water in particular, and yet now and then we experience even times of drought. How involved are we? How involved are our Canadian youth
in the issues around water? I think here in Alberta, it's interesting, and I think we're unique in Alberta. There are a lot of youth concerned about water in our province, particularly around the oil development in the north. And we're partnering with Son of Us Energy, actually, to bring the youth and the business perspective to the conversation, because we really want to create this conversation where it's productive. But there are a lot of youth coming from communities such as, we have a group coming from around Peace River, the Buffalo area, Lubicon Cree to talk about the issues of concerns around them. Because I think in Alberta and even in Canada, while water is this resource and we have so much of it, there's a lot of concerns about it. You know, we have communities that are having to boil their water, and we don't know about this. We don't hear about this, especially in the cities. And so I think youth are really concerned. I think that there's a need for that outlet right now in terms of how can we collectively have a voice and take action on this issue. And how can we have a voice that is constructive? Because I think one of the things that we struggle with at the John Humphrey Centre is how do we create these conversations where we have all perspectives at the table? A lot of times youth can get pretty riled up about issues, but we also need to be able to consider who are all the stakeholders at play in these issues and how do we bring those voices to the table. And I think that's the challenge, because youth can tend to become quite hardcore activists, which is great. And how do you take that energy to make sure that we're working in collaboration with all the stakeholders? And that's, for example, like government and business and that as well. So that's the interesting challenge I think we have at play.
That's the very right group to focus on, because it's an ideal group, it's a teachable group, and they feel more of the global responsibility. We are becoming like a shrinking world, a small global village. Obviously, you're talking a lot about youth, but your message is heard also by parents. So what do parents, where do they fit in your message, and how they will help you, enable you reach your objective?
I think the interesting thing with parents is that we find a lot of the parents are the ones that, we don't restrict who comes to the Global Youth Assembly, and that's what's interesting. We have a lot of people that will register who are in their 40s and 50s who want to be part of this conversation with the youth. But I think with parents, it's really critical that they're starting to engage in these conversations with their children, because this is the future. These youth are going to be looking at the legacy of us and reflecting on that and the future that they have to deal with. And I think it's important that parents support their children in exploring these critical questions. And we have a lot of parents kind of directing their kids to come to the Global Youth Assembly, and I think that's important. So,
one of the things that I really appreciate, whether you can do it now or you come again later, is to tell us about the problem of water in the world, especially among the poor nations. Yeah, so we in fact, it's like embedded in this statement is the invitation for you to come again and maybe provide us with statistics, even if you have them.
Well, absolutely, and I actually do work in East Africa as well, around water and around development, and it's interesting because it's a critical issue, and I think the issues of water are so diverse around the world, but yet they're so connected, and when we start looking about global health and global diseases, water, particularly in developing countries, is a really critical issue.
You spoke about this major event that is coming up. And tell us about what your organization is doing in order to help youth worldwide at a global level work together and get to know who they are.
Well, the Global Youth Assembly, I think, is the starting point of having these conversations and really getting youth reflecting on the issues around water. And we spend a lot of time on the youth exploring how they can work collaboratively to affect change. So we spend a good half day working with youth for them to kind of build plans. And then we use an online networking site to continue to connect these youth and have these conversations and to build these action plans further. And the whole idea about having this every 2 years is really to create a movement of youth. We don't want to see this as a one-off event. We really want to see this as a movement of youth making change.
Okay, I am a 16-year-old young person here in the city, and I come to Renee and ask you the question, what the heck should I be interested in coming to this or to even listen to you? Convince me that it is important for me.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think as a young person, you are going to have to be making the decisions in the future. You're going to be having to live with the legacies of what exists right now in terms of our consumer culture and the role that we have as consumers have in water and issues. And I think this is a place to come and understand what our role is in this crisis, but also how we can build a common vision together for the future. Because water is amazing namagara in Uganda. Water is life. And it's a critical piece that we all need to be involved in for the future and for our decisions. And so if you're a young person who really cares about the future of the world and you want to be in politics, you want to be engaged, even if you want to be an engineer, you need to be in these conversations to understand how can my role or whatever I do in my life contribute to positive action in supporting water and understanding it, and supporting human rights in general as well.
I hear you. What you're saying, it's not about me as an individual, it's about me as society.
Yes.
How can people reach you?
Well, our website is youthassembly.ca, so all of our contact information is on there. And we also, the John Humphrey Centre for Peace and Human Rights, our website is jhcentre.org. And we're here by Bonnie Doon Mall. We're ready for anybody to come in the doors and come talk to us.
And you are active all year long.
Always. We don't stop.
I can't say enough of thank yous for coming to the show, Renee.
Thank you for having me.
You are, when you talk about issues that are global in nature and they are peace in nature, you are promoting something that is essential and useful. I salute you and your organization.
Thank you.
So the address or phone number or website one more time for people to know who you are?
Website is youthassembly.ca and phone number is 780-453-2638.
I am sure, ladies and gentlemen, we have not heard the last from Renee Vaugeois from the John Humphrey Centre for Peace and Human Rights. Please come again and tell us about the progress. And I invite you right now, this is your official invitation to come us and tell us about the event when it takes place.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you.